These are the chants of angry students, staff, and faculty right here in America. This protest took place 3 years ago in California. It was the result of a 32% rise in tuition at public colleges in that state. But the price hikes did not stop there. It is now 2012, and the costs for college students are still going up. According to the Department of Education in 2009 and 10, the average cost for higher education was $21,000 per year. If tuition continues to rise at this rate, a 4-year college education from 2012 through 2016 will average at about $100,000. According to the College Board, in the last 5 years, average tuition and fees increased by 24% at public 4-year colleges. But that's not all. According to the USA Today, this year tuition and fees at America's public schools rose more than 8%. So how is all of this being paid for? One option for students is Stafford loans. Mayanna Priester, a public college student in South Carolina, explains her frustrations with the exhausting circus of paying for college with loans.
Nowadays, college tuition is rising rapidly. To add interest rates onto that is hard, especially for students who don't have people paying for it. I know a lot of students have family members who pay for their loans or their college tuition. Some of us don't have that, and all we have is ourselves working. How are we going to pay for school if we're trying to work and then grades are going down because we're too busy working to study? It just doesn't work.
This year, there was a possibility that the Stafford loan interest rates would double from 3.4% to 6.8%. Congress voted that Stafford loans will keep their interest rates at 3.4%. Brian Stewart is the manager of communications at the Center for American Progress and was the heart of planning the campaign to keep the interest rates from doubling this year. He explains the benefits from keeping rates low.
Keeping the interest rate on Stafford student loans low is crucial for millions of Americans who rely on them to finance their college education. It's essential to the American dream, and we know for a fact that access to affordable higher education strengthens the American economy and is a huge investment in young people today. So on average, this saves the average student about $1,000 over the course of the life of their average Stafford loan in interest payments. So it's definitely a huge economic benefit.
While Stewart thinks that rates should stay low, there are others who believe that the rates should rise. Neil Michel'le is the director of the Center for Education Freedom at the Cato Institute. Michel'le says by limiting the amount of loans to students for college will help reduce the inflation that is going on in tuition increases. He explains how low rates on student loans gives colleges more incentives to raise prices.
The reason I think that's a bad thing to do is if you give them more money or cheaper aid so that they will take more of it, the schools will raise their prices. So if we give students cheaper aid or more aid, which is what freezing the interest rate was essentially doing, then colleges just capture that money by raising their prices. If you give every student $100, colleges have no incentive not to raise their prices $100.
But if the rates go up next year, how would this affect the individual students? Brian Stewart says that the results would not be good.
It's also crucial to keep higher education affordable and ensure that equal opportunity is available to all Americans who are interested in pursuing a higher education or a college degree. So keeping higher education affordable is something that has always had some bipartisan support, and I think allowing the interest rates to have doubled would have been a huge negative impact for college students across the country.
Neil Michel'le from Cato thinks differently. He explains that according to the Associated Press, among graduates ages 25 and younger, roughly 50% are either unemployed or in jobs that don't require a degree. Michel'le questions whether everyone in college is really serious about what they're learning. He states that raising the rates for Stafford student loans will increase the students' awareness of the severity of loans.
You want the students to be paying more of the actual cost of their education, because when they're the ones paying for all the things they say they want, they might find they don't want it because they're the ones now bearing the cost for it. If we give them much cheaper loans than they otherwise would have been able to get, in other words, more easily get money than they could have gotten a hold of before, that reduces their incentive to say, you know what, maybe I don't need to go to the school that has the world's highest climbing wall in the recreation center. They will say, what I want is to get the knowledge I need or the skills I need without any of the other fluff and get it as quickly as possible.
College student Mayana Priester describes how the rates going up would affect her individually.
If these loans that I already have start to rise, I don't know if I will be able to afford it. And it may come a time where I have to step back from college, which is one thing I don't want to do. But it is very difficult working a full-time job and being a full-time student.
Students are scrambling for aid. So where do these students turn? Sallie Mae is America's #1 financial service specializing in education. The company services $234 billion in education loans. Zoe of Sallie Mae says that interest rates on Stafford loans should be taken seriously and that the loan rates affect students greatly. When a student gets a loan from Sallie Mae and they cannot make their payments, the loan then goes to a guarantor.
For federal loans that will be past due for 200 days, more than 200 days, we transfer them to our collections department. Our collections department will still try to bring the account up to date. And if not, I'm not really sure how many days the loan gets past due before it will be defaulted or before it will be considered in default.
Defaulting on a loan is a serious financial situation. The student can run into future financial aid restrictions and may not be eligible for future federal financial aid. The credit report damage may affect their future ability to buy a house or even a car. Also, typically, the interest rate charges will be much higher for loans received after they default on a loan. But that's not all. There is also the legal side of defaulting on a loan, where a guarantor can take the money from a student's paycheck, tax refund checks, or even from their state lottery winnings until the debt is paid off. LSU college student Blake Gotch says students should be more aware of the consequences of loans, and he also says that America should not raise interest rates on Stafford loans to deal with rises in tuition.
They have to take into consideration that these people have lives, and, doing this, you put them in a deeper hole to where they have to dig themselves out, and as long as the hole gets deeper, it gets harder on that person to recover from, what's happening, taking, money out of their own pockets. So, it's making it harder for them to get a good education.
Zoe from Sallie Mae gives students advice about how to avoid defaulting on their loan.
Even if the borrower is not required to make a payment while they are in school, I still advise that they make payment for as long as they can, even if they are in school, to avoid a large amount of interest that will be added towards the principal balance.
Americans are striving to find a solution to the rising tuition prices. Congress voted that the current rate for student Stafford loans will remain at 3.4%. But there will be another vote next May, and the same or a new rate will be set in place in July 2013. Reporting for Radio America, I'm Michel'le Jackson.